It is synonymous with parties, wealth, and luxury, an El Dorado for young people and tourists, a sanctuary of wealthy American retirees. Florida.
People come to Florida just to kind of really relax and enjoy themselves.
A state with heavenly beaches, breathtaking landscapes, and millionaires' villas. But this postcard image, symbol of the American dream, hides an entirely different reality. Some of the deadliest and most dangerous roads in the USA, with more than 1,100 accidents a day and 3,000 deaths a year, a roadside inferno on the brink of implosion.
We have to sound the alarm. This is just unacceptable.
Accidents, pileups, traffic offenses, violence, urban rodeo, and illegal races. Join us and discover the flip side of the Florida road scene.
There's absolutely a lot of things that make driving in Florida crazy. The population density here is immense. We are adding more and more people to Florida, and we're not making more roads.
Why did Florida become one of the most accident-ridden and deadly states in the USA? What's really going on these roads? How to explain such a scourge? To answer these questions, we conducted a survey through the state and its 430,000 kilometers of roads. First, Miami Beach on the Atlantic coast, the capital of partying and excess and the cause of many accidents. Then, the Miami suburbs, where the state's worst offenders are. Also, the freeways, especially Interstate 4, the deadliest in the USA. And the legendary overseas highway connecting the Keys to the mainland, where the slightest accident can have catastrophic consequences. Discover two phenomena that plunge Florida into mourning every day. Accidents involving luxury cars and slingshots, superpowered machines that can become veritable killing machines. And the vehicles driven by seniors that crash into houses and storefronts. A spectacular and uncontrollable plague.
The driving it's out of hand.
Join us on a never-before-seen tour of Florida to find out how one of America's tourist hotspots has become a destination fraught with danger. Our investigation begins on the southeast coast in Miami. It's a port area nicknamed the Gateway to America, located on the Biscayne Bay. A town of 500,000 inhabitants facing Miami Beach, a seaside resort lined with white, sandy beaches, turquoise water, and famous for its legendary fiestas. A place of all kinds of excess that attracts some 25 million tourists a year.
When you're looking at other people that are visiting, when they're coming down here, they're just looking to have fun and party and blow off. They're not the same type of vacationers that are going to Disney World in Orlando that are taking their kids. This is like an adult vacation Disney World. People come to Florida just to kind of really relax and enjoy themselves.
In this city of show and luxury, many tourists want to take advantage of their vacations by living a part of the American dream. To that end, they rent sumptuous villas and apartments and above all, top-of-the-range cars. So much so that Florida has become leader in the luxury car rental sector, a flourishing market that generates millions of dollars. A real fashion statement among tourists.
And we've seen when behind they get the wheel and they have the power of 2,500 pounds plus, and they can go that fast, or they can't run that fast or bike that fast, they become somebody else. They become very aggressive drivers.
Powerful cars, some of them able to reach speeds of over 350 kilometers an hour. Inevitably, in the hands of a novice, the risk of accident is much greater.
There's always people that are renting these types of cars to go show off and, you know, look like they're somebody special or somebody cool, you know, so they go and rent these supercars. Maybe they're trying to attract women or whatever it may be, and then they end up driving crazy and crashing them.
Rafael knows his phenomenon well. For 20 years now, he has been an accident paparazzo. His job to survey the roads and in around Miami to film every incident. Armed with his camera, tuned to a police and fire department's radios, he knows as soon as an accident occurs. He then sells the footage to local TV stations to fill the news section. His best-selling footage is the luxury car accidents, a veritable scourge in the region.
People rent those cars and then they destroy those cars. Most of those cars are rentals. And so the people rent them, they a lot of times never had an exotic car before, maybe never even drove an exotic car before. They have a lot of power, so they speed a lot, they drive reckless, and a lot of times these people are either drinking too much alcohol or they're using drugs, and they're not as focused as they normally would be, and now they're driving this very fast car, and a lot of times they lose control.
Tourists who think they're real racing drivers, faced with the power of these luxury cars, and with the drivers under the influence of alcohol or drugs, accidents are inevitable. Tragedies that are a godsend for our night reporter.
I mean, every day I go to work, I hope nobody dies and I still make money. But usually, in order to make good money, I have to have crazy stories like multiple fatalities. So if there's going to be a crash with, 2 people, 3 people dead, that's always what the TV stations will buy.
Minutes later, Rafael intercepts an announcement on the police airwaves. A serious road accident has just occurred.
We're on 27th Avenue. They already called 1 trauma alert from the crash. I heard it's a rollover with 4 people possibly injured. And now we might have someone trapped in the vehicle. They're sending more units. Let's try to get as close as we can without them bothering us.
Our paparazzo is faced with the carcass of a car completely overturned, a loss of control accident. Camera on shoulder, Rafael films as much as he can to send to the TV stations.
I mean, for me and for what I do, the types of crashes that I cover that the news stations are going to want to buy are the kind of crashes that involve high-end luxury or exotic cars, It's just that because, normally you don't see that type of car driving around very, very often. And even less do you see one of those high-end luxury cars, supercar, destroyed and in pieces. So I think that's one of the things people want to see, those types of cars actually destroyed. And
in his career, Rafael has covered hundreds of luxury car accidents. Spectacular images that fetch up to $240. Like the evening, our paparazzo filmed this Ferrari pulverized by a loss of control. Or this Porsche, which ended up in the canal following a collision with another Porsche at over 160 kilometers an hour. Excessive speed that led to the deaths of the 2 drivers. But one accident in particular left its mark on the reporter.
Yeah, this was a really wild and crazy crash that I covered. It was on the 163rd Street Bridge in Sunny Isles Beach, I believe it was, and there was a guy in a Ferrari that apparently had some kind of trouble with it, and he stopped right on the roadway, and apparently he got out to try to find out what's going on with his car. Maserati came speeding by and just crashed into the guy standing next to his Ferrari and ripped the door right off. And when the Maserati crashed into the Ferrari driver, it sent him flying up in the air and down into the water below the bridge. But from what I understand, they didn't find his body until the next day. Apparently the woman that was driving the Maserati actually was drunk. I think these types of problems with these supercars crashing is probably a bigger problem in South Florida, Miami area than anywhere else in the world.
A phenomenon that continues to grow here in Florida. It's a real problem for the county authority.
The only way we can combat that is stopping and citing and trying to bring to their attention that you're not alone. You know, because of the rural areas that we have throughout the state, some people may be able to drive that fast. Here, can't do it. It's just, it takes too many other lives into consideration.
Beyond accidents linked to the rental of powerful cars, other ultra-dangerous and totally illegal phenomena have for years been spreading in the Miami suburbs. In the heart of the slums, at dusk, groups of young people gather in parking lots to indulge in a totally forbidden activity: illegal car racing. Driving at over 200 kilometers an hour, these street racers will take any risk to satisfy their thirst for thrills, and above all, to do whatever it takes to win the race. Because behind this extreme activity lies the lure of profit. Every player here can wager sums of up to several $1,000s.
So look, basically, I betted on one car. The car wanted to win and lost, so I had to pay my money. That's how that goes. 20 for him, 20 for him. $40, they ain't shit. 40 USD, man, stop playing.
An illegal activity that has become fashionable in Florida. Born in Baltimore, this phenomenon was popularized by a Hollywood film, Fast and Furious, shot here in Miami, a blockbuster featuring chases and stunts. Since its release in 2001, this extreme sport has gained increasing numbers of followers all over the country. But the biggest traffic crime in Florida has to deal with its whole other illegal activity: urban rodeo.
It's my passion. It's what I love to do.
The aim of these riders is to have fun as a group on the road in their motorized vehicles.
Ride with other people, that's the best thing. That's the best feeling in the world to me.
Rodeos. For these kids, it's a way of life, a way for them to let off steam. Their only way to stay away from crime, gangs, and the drug networks that plague their neighborhoods. Their slogan, wheels up, guns down.
The wheels up, guns down was the original idea, that they were going to come and ride the streets to impede the flow of traffic and to raise awareness to their cause. That has turned into really a kind of an enterprise of just lawlessness. They're just going to drive. They feel they're entitled to it. Some of them don't have licenses. They're pulling wheelies. But this is their idea of, you know, their peacefulness, if you will, and how they relax.
We are good people in general. We're not bad people, you know what I'm saying? We just, you know, like to ride. It's the whole thing about riding. That's all it is. About riding.
It's an activity that has always won over foreign visitors to Florida. Like this group of English riders who have come to join in.
I knew about the bike scene. My friend come here first. Obviously, he come back to England and showed us. So obviously, they're the best places to ride. So that's why we're doing it. Taking risks is obviously part of the thrill and part of the fun. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of people like to do crazy things and that. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I like to do. That's my crazy thing.
Aboard motorized vehicles, these enthusiasts take to the Miami streets in broad daylight. A pack of around 50 riders taking all manners of risks. Speeding through the streets, causing chaos on the road, risking their own lives and those of other road users. Brazen incivilities and road delinquency under the noses of the Florida police. In Florida, a law passed in 2012 prohibits officers of the law from pursuing dangerous drivers to avoid causing an accident themselves. Thus, faced with this phenomenon, the police are helpless to intervene.
Unless the crime committed is a violent, forcible felony, the officers will not pursue. They'll try and stop, but if they take off, if they show evasive action, we will shut it down. We will not try and chase them.
A totally illegal and dangerous hobby responsible for over 150,000 accidents a year. When today's fun is over, many riders return injured.
It's a rush off the road.
Common injuries in this extreme sport, but sometimes the accidents are much more serious.
So everybody got hit by a car today, so I'm finna go back now and see where everybody else at.
This evening, a gang member is missing. One has had a terrible accident at this traffic light junction. The young rider was hit by a car. A side collision hurled the young man to the ground. This footage shows the awful consequences. His leg was completely ripped off.
His leg broke, broke. I don't know if they probably might be able to put it back on together or something. I don't know, his leg, ugh. It hurt, made my stomach hurt.
A dangerous activity with sometimes tragic consequences deplored by the neighborhood.
I don't know, I can't tell the police what to do because my feeling is all of them just need to go on dirt roads and go do what they need to do instead of the streets. Because that's where they fuck, dirt road.
There's a problem with that. When you see motorcyclists driving erratically, bicyclists driving erratically, they really drive at the risk of others, and that's a problem. And that's why we have stepped up enforcement in so many different areas.
Despite a tragic accident taking a gang member's leg, they're not yet done with Miami's streets. As soon as night falls, the South Florida riders gather again to engage in another illegal activity. Also very much in vogue, donut contests. The aim is to make circles on the road by screeching tires.
Oh yeah, Florida is crazy.
Right in the middle of intersections. Racers block traffic and cause jams while they have fun.
Very dangerous. A lot of people get hurt. Police might be coming now. Yeah, the police coming right now. Go to the next location. It'll be a bunch of locations throughout all Miami. They might go to Broward, but most of the times it just be through Miami.
Every evening, it's the same cat and mouse game. Again, apart from chasing them away, the police are powerless to intervene.
I'm spectating. We are watching the G8. Look, this car right here, look.
Armed with their cell phones, the gang films the best donuts and posts them on social networks. The risks taken cause many accidents with sometimes serious consequences.
I mean, there's social media videos everywhere, people getting hit, people losing control. That's just outright lawlessness. That's not an accident waiting to happen. That is an intentional act to violate the laws, and people eventually get hurt from all that.
A fad that brings chaos to Florida's roads and is responsible for over 400 deaths a year. Alongside this road crime, another series of explosive incidents is worrying authorities. In recent years, the state has been plagued by an unusual phenomenon. Crashes into buildings, stores, service stations, even people's homes. Impressive images and a dangerous phenomenon. Like here, in this clothes store. Watch closely. While customers are peacefully looking at clothes, something totally unexpected is about to happen. In a fraction of a second, an SUV enters a store, knocking over customers and displays. Another camera films the impact from a different angle. This accident, which fortunately caused no casualties, was blamed on driver error. Someone trying to park inadvertently pressed the accelerator instead of the brake. Behind the wheel of the car is a retired 78-year-old woman who is shocked by what she has done. It is far from an isolated incident in the state. People driving to buildings is a veritable plague in Florida, regularly making the local headlines. It's a phenomenon that affects nearly 1 store in 4 across the region. The key element in these incidents is the involvement of the elderly. With over 40% of the population over 60, Florida has nearly 8 million pensioners, making it the state with the second largest number of seniors in the country.
We've seen an influx of older drivers coming to Florida for many reasons. A lot of them retire over here, and a lot of them come as what we call snowbirds, where they come during the winter months for vacation. Plus, also South Florida is home for a lot of tourists. So you have a combination of those 3 factors when it comes to older drivers.
So why do some drivers, especially senior citizens, inadvertently run into buildings? Several factors explain these accidents. The degenerative brain diseases affecting many pensioners can lead to disorientation and loss of driving skills. Others are on medications that can slow down certain reflexes. Finally, the loss of motor skills and lack of reactivity associated with old age are also at the root of these tragedies.
There's a lot of impediments that could happen as you age in place. You're losing your vision, your mobility, your physical mobility is limited, your reaction time is different than when you were younger.
You know, driving is a skill. It's not necessarily a right. So as long as people are honing their skills of driving, but with time, as people's reactions change with age, slow with age, you have to constantly look at that and see when it's time for somebody to hang up their driver's license. And it's the toughest thing to do because certain individuals believe that's their ticket to freedom, ticket to their ability to go wherever they want to do. That's a problem, but we have to address it.
The phenomenon has spread from Florida across to the entire country. In the USA, there are almost 100 window crashes every day. To curb these accidents, the authorities and associations run prevention campaigns all over the state to make driving safer.
We try to educate the older drivers as early as possible, show them that there are alternatives to driving if that's something that they're really considering doing anytime soon.
And we also know that older drivers tend to reduce their driving from situations they're not comfortable from. That may be restricting themselves from driving on highways. It may be restricting driving at night or in highly congested times of day.
Alternative forms of transport, plus road infrastructures better adapted to the elderly.
We expect the share of older drivers in Florida to continue to increase into the future. And so it's critical in Florida that they look at improving their transportation system in terms of making it easier for older drivers to navigate. Florida is a leader in addressing the needs of older drivers. They've moved to larger street signs, wider lane markings, better lighting at intersections. And this not only makes older drivers safer, it makes all drivers safer. When you have a clear and more easily understandable driving environment, it helps to reduce traffic crashes and traffic fatalities.
But in Florida, the elderly are not the only ones responsible for fatal road accidents. All populations are considered here, especially young people. And for them, accidents occur peak during one period in particular, the Easter vacation. The phenomenon is linked to a celebration known as spring break. During this 2-week vacation, students from all over the country gather in Miami Beach to celebrate the end of their school year and reaching the age of 21. A period of debauchery and excess for students who for the first time have legal access to alcohol.
So you have the young kids getting drunk, partying, they want to, swim and have fun. The hotels get packed. So the streets get packed with cars, with just pedestrians alone.
So, it's not just spring break here. There's spring break, there's urban weekend, there's all sorts of holidays that people come to Florida and, concerts and music festivals like Ultra and things like that. People come here to party.
Spring break is like, it's the new craze.
Festivities that cause many problems on Miami Beach's roads make it a town fraught with danger. The combination of parties, alcohol, and driving creates an explosive situation on the roads.
The more people that congregate, the more for events around drinking and drugs, the worse it's going to be on our roads. In Florida, we're one of the states with the highest drunk driving crashes and drunk driving fatalities. So it's not completely surprising that we're consistently in the top 10 most dangerous states in the country.
Driving under the influence of alcohol, not just a problem, a veritable scourge in Florida. Accidents that regularly make the headlines, especially on spring break. Crashes are always spectacular, with tragic and dramatic consequences for families. Heather Geronimus, 40, lost her father in a road accident, a tragedy linked to a drunk driver. Since then, this mother of a daughter has made this cause her hobby horse. As part of an association, she now travels the roads to raise public awareness of these phenomena.
So on January 24th, 2009, my father, Dr. Robert Geronimus, was crossing the street on foot on Brickell, and a drunk driver blew a red light at a very high rate of speed and struck my father. My father flew 75 feet into the middle of Brickell, and he died there, and the driver continued to drive.
The drunk driver fled the scene, leaving Heather's father to succumb to his injuries. A few weeks later, the man was found and given a 6-year prison sentence.
And it's not just my story. There's over 10,000 victims of drunk driving, the families of 10,000 victims of drunk driving in this country every year. And all of us have a loss that will never be replaced. And it never ever had to happen.
Sadly, it's far from an isolated case. In the United States, 1/3 of all traffic accidents are linked to drunk driving, a social phenomenon responsible for over 300,000 injuries a year. And Florida is no exception. For over 20 years, this man has witnessed the cruelty of drunk driving and road accidents.
We have 2 cameras over here. We have a camera over there, and over there you have 2 more cameras. It's a lot of cameras in and around the building.
Mitch Novick, 57, is the owner of this hotel, located in the heart of Miami Beach's most festive district between Ocean Drive and Washington Avenue. 2 thoroughfares famous for their bars and discos, a favorite spot for young partygoers.
So here's my security system. It has 35 active cameras showing.
Exasperated by the situation, the manager fitted a CCTV system. His objective is to film the accidents linked to the ravages of alcohol that plague his neighborhood. Images that he then posts on social networks.
Alcohol and dance performances on the public right-of-way, which I've always argued is the crux of the problem. That is what fuels the carnival-like atmosphere that everybody is witnessing. That's another reason why I became so adapted putting videos out of the craziness and chaos that occurs in this neighborhood.
His cameras do indeed reveal a chaotic atmosphere in Miami Beach. The result is a chain of incivilities and accidents. Fighting, score settling, all manner of crime and road accidents. Drunk drivers taking undue risks. Like this driver, speeding away well over the speed limit after hitting a motorcyclist without even stopping.
It's a dangerous situation. This behavior is largely fueled by alcohol, drugs, and youth.
It's a crisis for a city that knows Lieutenant Brendan Byrne well.
We gotta do what we do best.
A local fire chief In his 25-year career, he has faced some unimaginable situations.
Spring break, over the years, I've seen, you name it, pretty much everything. Seen guys climb up the coconut trees, get the coconuts down and fall 20 feet, major trauma alerts. I've seen a guy jump off a building just as we're driving along. I saw him jump off a building from the 33rd floor. You can expect anything. Spring break, you got a lot of the younger crowd. They're from out of town, so they don't know the roads, they don't know the areas most of the time. A little bit irresponsible, and they'll take more risks, and you'll see a lot more accidents.
Accidents occur all the year round in the city that never sleeps. But in Miami Beach, one particular location is the focus of attention: the MacArthur Causeway. It's the exit point from Miami Beach's festive area, linking South Beach to downtown Miami. This 6-kilometer bridge, perched 21 meters above the waves across Biscayne Bay, has become a perilous route for drunk drivers.
There's always major accidents. People are here, they drink, they drive, and when they go to leave the beach, they've been driving so slow in the side streets that when they actually get to the bridge and it opens up to the highway, they gun it and they're drunk, they, can't handle the speed or make the wrong turn, or they're, not knowing what other people are doing. So it's, most of our major accidents will be on the highways as they leave Miami Beach. MacArthur Causeway is where I've seen many, many, many rollovers, accidents, loss of lives.
A road in the spotlight that regularly makes headlines. In recent years, hundreds of accidents have been recorded here.
With less accidents, it's just people's decision making.
When you get behind the wheel after having alcohol in your system, you're making a choice. There's no reason that alcohol in a vehicle should ever be, mixed. These are just 100% preventable crimes that we all have the power to change, because nobody should ever get behind the wheel if they're drug or alcohol impaired. People know in this state that the consequences are not as harsh as they are in other states, in other countries, so they take the risk more times than not. Statistics show that people drive drunk 80 times before they're caught. So that's 79 times that someone has taken the risk before they get caught. So, if I could change anything in the state of Florida, it would be the laws that, tell people right now, essentially, that you'll probably be okay getting home.
The figures continue to rack up because in Florida, the law forbids police to carry out random alcohol checks, except in cases of odd or dangerous driving. Yet other measures could be instigated in an attempt to change mindsets.
There are 34 states with what's called first-time ignition interlock offender laws, which means if you commit a drunk driving offense, you would have to have an ignition interlock in your car for a certain period of time to start the car. So there are 34 states that have that as a first-time offender. We do not have that in the state of Florida as a first-time offender. That would certainly both prohibit more people from doing it because they would be afraid to have that kind of penalty, but it would also stop people from repeating the offense because we also see many, many repeat offenders on our roads.
In Miami Beach, drunk driving isn't the only reason for road accidents. Another phenomenon has increased accidents tenfold in the past 8 years. This powerful rental vehicle in the hands of some pleasure seekers can become a veritable killing machine. The slingshot. A three-wheeler that's part motorcycle, part go-kart. Length 3.8 meters, width 2 meters. This steel monster has 4 cylinders, 173 horsepower, and can reach 100 kilometers an hour in under 5 seconds. An extreme vehicle with a top speed of 210 kilometers an hour. Ground-level driving is a new toy for thrill seekers. The trouble is, any vacationer with a driver's license can rent this veritable rocket and drive through the traffic.
Yeah, the new thing is those slingshots. So it's between a motorcycle and a scooter put together, and they're so low to the ground, so anything like a big SUV, they really won't see them. They have a lot of power, they go very fast in a short distance.
There's a huge rental market because, you know, it's a lot of people that live in the north aren't going to own a slingshot to drive 2 or 3 months out of the year.
It has caused dozens of accidents in recent years, many tragic with serious consequences.
If you're driving aggressively on a scooter or driving aggressively in one of the slingshots, if there's an accident, you're more than likely to get hurt. The mortality rate and severity of accidents between 25 miles an hour point of impact and 30 miles an hour is huge to the body. And there's a lot of studies that validate that.
People don't wear helmets. You know, they come around here and they want to look cool without their helmets.
Because in Florida, it is not required to wear a helmet.
And they're very popular in Miami Beach, but they're not very safe for Miami Beach, I'll tell you that. And the accidents, we've been getting those more and more every day, the slingshot.
If we are seeing that throughout, then, you know, we should put laws in place that they have to have some kind of a driving permit or an endorsement on their license from other different areas, because a lot of these people don't live here. These are people coming from out of town that want to rent these things. It's like renting a scooter.
All of these other vehicles are adding to the, I guess, you know, the kind of craziness of the roads.
The Florida madness doesn't stop there. The worst place for accidents, making Florida one of the deadliest states in the US, is right here, on its freeways. Florida has 4 of them, which combined make a total of 2,410 kilometers of road. Between 2015 and 2019, 15,541 people lost their lives on them. The figures are well above the national average.
Florida has some of the most heavily traveled roads and highways across the country. And that includes large trucks, which are very critical to Florida's economy, but obviously that's also putting a lot of wear and tear in the system.
The freeway with the most tragedies and deaths nationwide is Interstate 4, a road that Jesse Webb has traveled daily for over 20 years.
Yes, we are on I-4 right now on the east side of Lakeland. Definitely one of the most deadly highways in the state, maybe even in the country. I've been to a crash about every 10 feet of this highway.
Now 36, he has towed thousands of wrecks on this highway.
I did a really bad fatality right here about 2 years ago. Just about 4 or 5 car pileup. They were scattered all along the left side, all the way down into this ditch.
Today, his breakdown company is home to countless wrecked vehicles, salvaged from the wretched road.
I-4 is definitely one of the most, if not the worst, highway in America. From my point of view, especially. I work it daily, so I get to see a lot of it. I've driven all over the U.S. There's just things you see on I-4 that I've never seen anywhere else. It's insane.
Interstate 4 crosses 212 kilometers of Florida from west to east, from Tampa to Daytona. It's the busiest in the country. Heavy traffic, with the highest concentration of HGVs in the USA. Traffic becomes congested every day on account of it being the sole access road for a whole cluster of theme parks, attracting millions of tourists every year. SeaWorld, Universal, and especially Disney World. Chaotic traffic is the cause of many accidents.
I think the highway was never intended to be used like it's being used. The driving it's out of hand. People are in a hurry thinking they're going to get somewhere 5 minutes faster. I feel like that's our main problem on I-4 is people do not know how to get up to speed to merge into traffic.
Indeed, in recent years, there has been a fatality of over 212 kilometers. But beyond its incredible road traffic, why has Interstate 4 become the deadliest highway in the USA?
There's a lot of accidents caused from all sorts of issues. I mean, it could be from tires coming off of vehicles, to faulty equipment, to no-skill drivers, people on their phones. Because when it's flowing great. Like, you could just put your cruise control on and go. But when it's dead stop, almost instantly, you'll be going 70 miles an hour and see brake lights up ahead, and it comes to a complete stop quick, to where people behind you, you're watching your rearview mirror to make sure they're not going to run into you. I mean, it comes to a halt.
Interstate 4, then, has many accident-causing elements responsible for numerous tragedies. One incident in particular left an indelible mark on this freeway, a gigantic pileup, the largest in Florida's history.
Yep, I'm right here, circled. It was a disaster, that's for sure. Yeah, it looks like a war scene.
The accident was in 2008, in the middle of the night. Jesse Webb still remembers that terrible day.
So, it's about 5 o'clock in the morning. I get a phone call saying, meet me at the shop. We are going to get all of our trucks ready. There's been a bad accident on I-4. If you turn on your news, you'll see. We got ready, got all of our trucks, met there. So we're going the wrong way up I-4 because the eastbound is completely shut down and clogged up from all the wrecked vehicles. And it got so bad, and it smelled like smoke. You could tell they were burning, and it was so foggy. I mean, it was like a wall of smoke. So we get out there, you see fire trucks and ambulances and the sheriff's department, FHP, everyone out there. So we just start basically extracting people that were still stuck in vehicles. It was a crazy day, that's for sure. It was overwhelming. It was like, I've never been to war or anything like that, but just the chaos, there's people screaming still. I don't know how to compare it to anything that I've lived, but it was just an eerie feeling. We got 40 or 41 out of the 70 vehicles that were out there on I-4.
A 70-vehicle pileup that left 4 dead and 38 injured. A tragedy caused by a combination of very thick fog allied to another factor. That night, in the fields near the freeway, huge quantities of brushwood were being burned. The fog combined with the smoke meant that drivers had no visibility, making it impossible to anticipate what was happening ahead and spot that vehicles were a complete standstill. Thus, cars sped ahead and ended up crashing into each other at nearly 90 kilometers an hour.
I mean, within a minute, all these vehicles were piled up. Within 1 minute. So it's just a chain reaction that basically shut down the highway and caused so much damage. And I could not believe all of the burnt, how many vehicles caught fire and burnt to the ground. Like, just the smell. Like, every time I smell a burnt vehicle, I think of that. Like, it's just in my brain, like, because it was so much stuff out there burning.
Since that 2008 pileup, Interstate 4 has recorded countless fatal chain accidents. Aware of all these problems, Joe Biden decided in 2021 to grant more than 15 billion euros to Florida to urgently improve its motorway network.
Freeways can be improved with better interchange design, better access onto the freeways. There's a variety of measures, better lane markings, paved shoulders. Incrementally, each of these will result in reduced traffic crashes and, more critically, reduced traffic fatalities.
Beyond Interstate 4, another Florida highway is a real eye-catcher, one of the most incredible roads in the USA for the beauty of its landscapes, the Overseas Highway. This breathtaking road across the ocean links the mainland to the Keys, an archipelago of 1,700 islands at the southmost tip of the USA in the Atlantic Ocean, east of the Gulf of Mexico. Made up of heavenly islands and sumptuous beaches, popular with tourists for fishing and water sports, the Keys is every American's dream destination.
It's just an amazing place to come and visit.
Only one road provides access, US Route 1, a 3,800-kilometer highway that starts at the Canadian border in Maine, then runs along the entire eastern seaboard via New York, Washington, and Boston, crossing 15 states, including Florida. From Miami onwards, it is known as the Overseas Highway.
The nature of the overseas highways, obviously, it's one of the jewels of being in Florida, and certainly it's a unique experience in terms of traveling down the overseas highways and going to Key West.
Suspended above the water over a distance of 181 kilometers, it links the islands one by one via some 40 bridges, including the famous 7 Miles Bridge, one of the world's greatest human constructions, a jewel of infrastructure with one of the most beautiful panoramic views in the USA. So much so it has been immortalized by Hollywood blockbusters such as James Bond, License to Kill, Mission Impossible 3, and Fast and Furious.
It's really an extensive system of bridges. It's absolutely vital to the state's mobility, certainly for tourists and Floridians to get back and forth. It's vital, but it's also a very vulnerable system.
But this legendary road is the scene of many terrible road tragedies.
People were dying all the time, to the point at the top of the stretch, when you start to come into the Keys, we had a sign, kind of like the gas station, where you could flip the numbers and it kept track of the number of people that had been killed on US 1 during that year. Almost weekly, they'd go up and they'd just change the numbers, and dozens of people would die on US 1 every year.
Since its creation, thousands of accidents have been recorded on this freeway. In 2021, it recorded no fewer than 135, causing 6 deaths, making it one of the USA's most dangerous roads. Terry Abel knows all about these dangers. A fire chief at Isla Morada, he and his teams are often called out to help accident victims.
Down here, traffic on holiday weekends can get a little heavy, and it's very backed up for many hours. Some people lose their patience and they start driving irresponsible.
Over 5 million tourists take the overseas highway every year. The ensuing congestion regularly causes traffic jams with terrible consequences.
And the summer months, we unfortunately run more accidents, more motor vehicle accidents. Some are simple little fender benders to full-on head-on collisions, rollovers, multiple vehicles. You know, it runs the full spectrum, the whole gambit of nothing to crazy severe.
Accidents often linked to the sumptuous landscapes. Drivers taking the road for the first time tend to focus on the view rather than the other road and the traffic ahead. Such distractions can cause serious accidents.
They slow down to take their pictures, and the person behind them didn't pay attention, or while they're trying to snap pictures.
Some even stop in the middle of the road to admire the scenery. It's risky behavior, a danger to other motorists.
They wander out of their lane and they wander into the other oncoming traffic. And multiple accidents there, and again, the bridge is shut down for hours.
But accidents on this freeway are mostly linked to its infrastructure. 3 features combine to produce accident potential. First, it has no central safety barrier, meaning that in two-lane traffic, the risk of a head-on collision is high. Second, most of the freeway has only 2 lanes. In the few overtaking sections, drivers must move into the adjacent lane to face oncoming traffic. Plus, on bridges and uphill sections, poor visibility makes overtaking risky. Finally, none of the overseas highway has a hard shoulder, with no stopping possible. A breakdown can quickly cause chaos.
There are a few sections where it goes to 4 lanes, but vast majority of it's 2 lanes. There's very few passing zones that are down here, and they're very short and limited.
Meaning passing an immobilized vehicle is virtually impossible. The problem is, any tourists here run out of petrol. They forget to fill up before taking the overseas highway. On this freeway, service stations are few and far between, being almost 30 kilometers apart in some sections, and breakdowns often lead to serious accidents.
The system is very vulnerable to disruption, and because of that, it can experience significant levels of traffic congestion anytime that there's a breakdown or a crash on one of these facilities.
And if there's any chance that anybody in the accidents might unfortunately pass away from their injuries, then that automatically turns into about a 4 to 5 hour shutdown of US 1. That means nobody moves north, nobody moves south.
The challenge, of course, is making sure that you also are able to address incidents as quickly as possible, because again, you can't drive, there's not going to be an alternative route to the overseas highway.
And then the trickle-down effect of that is when traffic does stop, then everybody that's stuck in that traffic behind the accident, they start to get impatient, and then there's more accidents on top of the original bad one that caused the traffic to begin with.
This, then, is a very high-risk zone. Aware of the highway's problems, the authorities decided on improvements to make this legendary route a great deal safer.
The 18-mile stretch got renovated a while back, and when they got done doing that road, they put a 3-foot, 4-foot barrier, concrete barrier up down the middle, and they added passing zones so that when people get impatient, they can pass and stuff of that nature safely. Prior to that, it was simply a 2-lane road, and there were so many head-on crashes up there and fatalities.
Certainly the state continues to invest significant funds to preserve that system, and preserving any type of bridge structure is more costly.
As with improvements to the overseas highway, Florida faces an immense challenge. By 2040, the state's population is slated to rise to 30 million from the current 20 million. Road traffic is set to continue to intensify and potentially cause even more tragedies. To avoid this worst-case scenario, authorities and associations are mobilizing. New measures are in the pipeline to change the roadwork and change attitudes.
The state of Florida has a very aggressive strategic plan for improving traffic safety. I think it's a challenge that the state can address, but it really has to be a broad coalition of organizations and institutions really working together.
Time will tell whether Florida manages to curb the scourge of accidents on its nerve-wracking roads.